In previous episodes of this podcast, we have discussed the 6 paramitas, or transcendent actions. These are steps that we can take to bring more sanity and decency to a world that seems quite insane, not decent, scary, and at times hopeless. The 6 paramitas tell us that it is never hopeless if you know how to do these 6 things. So far, we've covered 5 of the 6 paramitas over the last months, as mentioned, and I've been putting off discussing paramita number 6, prajna, or wisdom, because I know that my understanding is flawed. And by the way, anyone who tells you my understanding of prajna, or wisdom, is unflawed, you should excuse yourself, because the truth, the reality of the meaning of prajna is beyond concept, beyond words. So anyone, including people such as myself, who say, I'm going to explain it to you, you should be very cautious at best. So I also want to mention at the outset that I am recording myself on video, creating this podcast episode. So if you want to watch it rather than listen to it, it's on YouTube, and we'll include a link in the show notes somewhere. And at the end of this episode, as I've been doing for the previous 2, I'm going to include, purely for my own joy and benefit, a recording that I love maybe more than all the other recordings. It's my favorite. Apologies to all the other recordings. I love this particular song and these musicians so much, and I want to share it with you. So it'll be at the end of the podcast. And in the meantime, let's speak of the inexpressible, aka prajna. So just as a brief reminder, the first 5 paramitas, or transcendent actions, are generosity. Everything starts with that. Without some sense of opening and caring and the wish to give, the other paramitas fall flat. So it makes sense that generosity is where we begin. And here, generosity doesn't mean being a nice person or giving away all your stuff or pretending to be a nice person, even. It means remaining in constant touch with your own inherent richness, which is indestructible, ever-present, brilliant and crazy, and in endless supply. And by richness here, I mean your own wakefulness, your own awareness, your own luminosity. Your presence is quite rich. And when we remain connected to the truth of our wakefulness, we could feel rich. And therefore, when you feel rich, being generous is really easy. So generosity, we begin with a sense of expansiveness and opening. The next paramita, coming in hot, discipline, means, okay, maybe you're really rich and nice and want to be helpful, but you got to be smart about it. You have to be focused and clear and intentional, aka disciplined, meaning, in one sense, you don't forget why you want to be generous and why you want to be disciplined. It's all for the purpose of being of benefit in this world. So discipline here, by the way, doesn't mean, again, crazy things like being perfect or always doing the right thing or having great habits. Great habits are great, but here, all that is meant by discipline is coming back. You know how to come back to what is important. And you do. And then when you forget, you notice that you forgot and you come back again. So it adds a note of crispness to the warmth of generosity. The third paramita is called patience, which counterbalances the sharpness of discipline by once again opening, relaxing, staying with, allowing things to unfold, opening further and further, not to be a friggin' doormat, not to think, well, everything's okay. Buddhist lady told me to be patient, so your hijinks and stupidity are okay with me. No, that's not what is meant by patience. Patience has much more to do with staying with things as they unfold. And spoiler, they never stop unfolding. So we continue to pay attention. We have our judgments, we have our critiques, we're entitled to them. But we also acknowledge what we think may not be the final word. Very important. Fourth paramita, exertion. Sanskrit word is virya, which is the same root as the word for virility, and it means vitality, life force. So we have the sweetness of generosity, the sharpness of discipline, the continuing sweetness of patience, and the deepening sharpness of being awake, of having energy, of never giving up. Boy, that's a tough one right now. Never giving up. But because you have a connection to generosity, you have some sense of discipline, and you are willing to be patient, we find that our life force expands due to the first three paramitas. When we're overly parsimonious or poverty-stricken, when we're super loosey-goosey, we're not sure what we're doing, we don't know how to come back because we don't know where back is, and when we're impatient, come on, keep moving, get her done, life force diminishes. The world becomes quite claustrophobic. We shrink. But when we're generous, when we're disciplined, when we have patience, we expand. And that expansion is synonymous with vitality. Don't take my word for that, or anything. You must examine these things for yourself. And then the fifth paramita, which we spoke about maybe a month ago, a few weeks ago, is called samadhi, or meditative absorption. And here we get into a little bit different realm. Generosity can be a habit. Discipline can be a habit. Patience can be a habit. Life force can be a habit that you cultivate. Meditative absorption is more like something that you allow. It is a sort of culmination of the first four paramitas. Without generosity, without discipline, without patience, without exertion, it is very difficult to remain absorbed in the present moment because it's too friggin' scary. So the fifth paramita is to remain absorbed in the reality of right now. Tall order, I'll just say that again. And now we come to the sixth paramita, as mentioned, prajna, or wisdom, which is inexplicable, but we'll do our best here. So a place to start with prajna, which has nothing to do with knowledge, nothing to do with intelligence, has nothing to do with theories. In fact, theories are a little bit the antithesis of wisdom. The philosopher Wittgenstein, if I did not pronounce that correctly, you're welcome to inform me, said about a group of people, but none of them was in error, except when he set forth a theory. So theories are, by their nature, limited at best, and the great Indian sage Nagarjuna of the 2nd century, philosopher or teacher behind the school of thought in Buddhism known as Madhyamaka, or the middle way, very profound, very important, very inexplicable, said something exactly the same. He said, as I have no theory, I am free from error. So in some ways, both Wittgenstein and Nagarjuna, in reverse order, are pointing to Nagarjuna's middle way. And this all has something to do with prajna. I will make that clear, hopefully, in a moment. The middle way is one of the most important, if not the most important, foundational teachings of Buddhism. The middle way is one of the original teachings of the historic Buddha upon his attainment of enlightenment. And the middle way describes an alternative to the two more common ways of viewing the meaning of life. So, big statement, y'all. And the first view and the first quality that characterizes many forms of spiritual practice is called eternalism, which means if I do my best, if I do things right, if I follow the rules, if I identify an external being who has laid it down and I have picked it up and I have done my best, I will go somewhere, probably after I die, that is eternally perfect and wonderful. And the people I love will be there, and I got to earn it. And I'm going to live my life to earn the right to an eternal resting place. And you know what? I hope that's true. I have no idea. All I know is that Buddha and Nagarjuna and the school of the middle way says, that's not what we're doing. It's not saying you can't do it or don't do it, saying we don't do that one. Eternalism has characterized spiritual seeking for better and for worse. For the great majority of recorded history of spiritual seeking, in my casual observation. I'm not a scholar, so that's what it seems like. Now, the second extreme, not eternalism, but the other extreme is called nihilism or nihilism, which means there's nothing that matters. There's nothing that comes after this. There's no one watching me. There's no deity. There's no divinity. There's no heaven. There's no hell. There's just me and right now. And I'm going to choose my own ideas and opinions and theories as the guiding principles for my life. Now, that's fine as a place to start. But as a journey to liberation, it's lacking. Let's just say that. Because the truth that I invite you to consider is that who you are and what you think and your opinions and your accomplishments, no matter how great, are not all there is. There is greater wisdom afoot. There is energy in the environment, within yourself. There are mysteries. There are countless forms of beauty and brilliance and sorrow and truth and meaning that come to you. They don't come from you. That distinction is lost in current cultures of spiritual seeking, which are somewhere in a weird Venn diagram with self-help, contraindicated. Perhaps because the mysteries are not predicated on self, and they don't come from help because they're already there. So we're talking now about a spiritual/mystical way of viewing our world, ourselves, our practice, and it is all connected, of a piece, one, inseparable, interdependent. All reality in the Buddhist view, and I'm sure other views too, is a result of interdependence. So to begin our view of prajna, it is helpful/really not helpful to contemplate the Buddhist notion of emptiness. It sounds horrible. It doesn't mean void, certainly. And maybe I said this in a previous podcast, but emptiness is a core principle of the Buddhist path, and it would be really awful to find out that what Buddha meant by empty was nothingness. No. What emptiness means, I posit, is empty of independent nature. You would not be here if not for your parents, who would not be here if not for theirs, and so on. And not just these beings and their genetic makeup, but the food they ate and the environment they lived in and the fights they got into and the injuries they had and all of that. coalesced to be you. If one of those pieces was gone, you wouldn't be here. So you do not exist apart from the causes and conditions that gave rise to you. And that is one way of thinking about the notion of emptiness. Doesn't mean nothingness. It means, again, empty of independent nature. And by this definition could just as easily be called fullness. You are full, completely unmappable composite of DNA and sandwiches that your people ate and things that hurt their feelings and the genetic structures that they inherited. All of this is you. And realizing this truth of interdependence, or emptiness, you could say, has a lot to do with true prajna, true wisdom. We see this, we know this. However, even saying, I see it, I know it, means you don't, because there's no you and nothing to see. If you want to understand a little bit more, I'm laughing at my own joke that I'm about to make, about Madhyamaka, the middle way, I refer you to the Abbott and Costello bit, Who's on First. If you've ever heard it, you know why I'm saying that. And if you haven't, please head over to YouTube or Google Abbott and Costello, Who's on First. Whatever you think it is, it's not that. So thank you, Nagarjuna and your Dharma heirs, Abbott and Costello. So another way of thinking of this truth of emptiness and its connection to wisdom is to consider that mind, consciousness, is also interdependent. In other words, mind only exists in relation to something. So it's very tofu-like in this sense. Mind is spacious and empty, according to many wisdom traditions, including the Buddha Dharma. And then something is presented, and we respond to it. When you see something beautiful, your mind has a happy thought. And when you see something horrible, your mind has a horrible thought. But without the presenting impetus, mind remains at rest, spacious and clear. So in this sense, all the things you think are simply a result of habitual pattern. You see something that used to make you happy and you think, that makes me happy again, or it might. So these are all habitual patterns. But underneath the habitual patterns, mind itself doesn't even exist. Where is it? So, in other words, your mind is not preloaded. You didn't come here with your mind preloaded with thoughts and notions. You encounter things, you feel things, mind starts to develop thought patterns. Okay, but what came before the thought patterns? Question to consider. Similarly, your eyeballs have not come preloaded with things to see. Vision is separate from what it sees. Vision just is, and then it sees something and you saw something. But what was not preloaded into your eyeballs, just as what you hear was not preloaded in your ears. With absence of sound, absence of sight, seeing and hearing are not gone. They're simply spacious. The spaciousness has much more to do with the meaning of prajna than what you know, and how smart you are, and what you've mastered. And I'm sure you're smart and you've mastered lots of things, and that's great. But what came before those things? And what have you learned and sensed that has simply come to you? Probably the most valuable things you know and are things that simply arose. So here is another reason that meditation practice is so important and is intimately connected to the realization of prajna. Because when we sit, we notice our thoughts, blah, 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 so forth and so on, and we let go. And we come back to the breath, and it happens again, blah, 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 etc. Let go and come back. So we practice letting go of the habitual patterns of thought over and over again to come back to the breath, in the case of this meditation practice or many meditation practices. And the reason we do that is not to become great breath followers, and it's not to replace unpleasant thoughts or destructive thoughts or negative thoughts or neurotic thoughts with better thoughts. That's not the point. The point is to replace all the thoughts with awareness of the space from which thoughts arise. Hey, all y'all who are using meditation, I hope this doesn't sound mean, but makes me a little grumpy, who are using meditation as a performance enhancement technique or as a way to develop mastery of anything, you're looking in the wrong direction, I dare say. There's much more to it than that. Mindfulness, as I may have mentioned in previous episodes, or to myself, I say it all the time, is half of what is involved in meditation practice. So if you think mindfulness is good, I practice mindfulness, my favorite mindfulness teachers are these people, I applaud you deeply and richly and sincerely. And I also would say that's half of what is possible from meditation practice. We cultivate focus and one-pointedness and the ability to concentrate. That's called mindfulness. But mindfulness doesn't really have anything to do with getting a better night's sleep or being a better leader or being less triggered. Those things that are perfectly worthy objectives come from the other half of the technique, the formless, techniqueless part of the technique, which is called awareness. When you practice meditation, you become more mindful. Certainly, you're able to pay attention and focus. Yay, that's truly great. And somehow, additionally, from the cultivation of mindfulness, awareness expands on its own. You have more insights, connections between things you may not have noticed before. Your sense perceptions become more vibrant. You feel more, you cry more, you laugh more. Your awareness expands. And that is often unremarked upon in meditation trainings. However, it's the best part. So if you're meditating to get a better night's sleep or feel less stress or be less triggered, I salute you, I applaud you, I bow to you, I acknowledge you, I affirm you. For what it's worth, that's great. Those things will happen. But if you're meditating in addition to have more insight, to love more deeply, to be more creative, to be more innovative, and to be more compassionate, the awareness piece is where all of that comes in, because these are things we receive. They're not things we can crank up. No matter how smart you are. You can't make love appear. You can't make insight happen. You can't make wisdom show up. These are things that just happen. And I don't think it's a mistake that many of the world's greatest inventions and insights have come to people who are sleeping. It's because when we relax our minds, the bigger awareness is felt. So in classical Buddhist thought, in the Mahayana tradition of Buddhism, there are three main schools, as you may have heard, Hinayana, Mahayana, and Vajrayana. The Mahayana schools are very focused on being of benefit, on the truth of emptiness and the interrelation of that recognition of emptiness and the ability to be of benefit. Those things are intimately connected, period. And in Mahayana Buddhism, those are among the central teachings. And the six paramitas are also very core teachings in Mahayana Buddhism. So, in Mahayana Buddhist thought, prajna can take three forms. And the first is called mundane, ordinary prajna. And this doesn't mean that you know math and have read the classics and yay, math and classics. Very pro those things. But here, mundane prajna means you have some sense of how your world operates. You take care of the details. If something is broken, you fix it. If you want to cook a meal, you know how to do that. If you want to live a dignified life, you have some sense of order in your home. And even more simply, if you want to send a letter, such as we used to do in the olden days, you know how to do that. You write something, you put it in an envelope, you put it on a stamp, you put an address, you go to the post office, you put it in this kind of box, not that kind of box. So there's some sense of, I'm not crazy flailing around here when I want to do ordinary things like grocery shop and mail letters and do my laundry and see a movie. I know how those things work. Okay, good. Ordinary prajna, very important. It also means you have some sense of the forces that have created the mundane world. This is not a small thing. Philosophy, art, science. You're educated. However you got that way, it doesn't matter. But you have some sense of, yeah, these are the forces that are important in the mundane world, and they are. And the second form of prajna is called prajna that transcends worldliness. So the first kind was like, I'm a worldly person. I know where Japan is. I know the train schedule. I know something about how to be healthy. So, great, those are really good things. But prajna that transcends worldliness is some recognition that's not all there is to know. Arts and science and where Japan is and how to wash your clothes. Very good. Mastery of your personal world. Lovely. But that's not all there is to know. There are wisdoms that extend beyond my world. Prajna that transcends worldliness. And the third form of prajna, interestingly, to me anyway, is called prajna that transcends dharmas. So this has something to do perhaps with prajna that is even beyond whatever spiritual understanding or attainment or practice or view that you possess. There's something else going on. Prajna that transcends dharma. Prajna that transcends your spiritual insights, which may be vast and accurate or silly or inaccurate or all of the above. Still, there's something beyond that. And the ultimate, perhaps, prajna transcending dharma is to recognize, it's going to sound silly, that there is nothing to recognize. There is no separation. There is only the clear light of awareness residing within itself. That's the best I can do, y'all. So if you have any inclination to relate more to the idea of prajna or to prajna itself, which is better, I have two suggestions. One, you could contemplate or read the Heart Sutra or Prajna Paramita Sutra. We're talking about the paramitas, talking about prajna. So the Prajna Paramita Sutra is a text on the paramita of prajna. But describing it as a text is inadequate. I wrote a very small book on the Prajna Paramita Sutra called Inexplicable Joy. So I've spent some time thinking about it, and the reason the book is very short is because it contains all of my insight, and therefore is necessarily concise. The Heart Sutra is a central text throughout all of Buddhism, particularly Mahayana Buddhism, which is also our topic today. And the full version of the Heart Sutra, or Prajna Paramita Sutra, is said to be something like 100,000 lines long. I've not studied that one. I'll just be frank with you here. There's another version that's 8,000 lines long. The version that I chant, and have chanted pretty much every day for more than 30 years, is 43 lines long. Very convenient. And pithy. And there's a final version that I'll explain in a moment. But whatever the version that you are interested in, pith of the text is the following. Form is emptiness. Emptiness also is form. Emptiness is no other than form. Form is no other than emptiness. That's the essential message of the Heart Sutra, which then unfolds to tell you whatever you think that means, you're wrong. No eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no mind, no body, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no dharmas. Goes on and on saying, whatever you think, no. And whatever you're saying no to that too. So it's constantly throwing you back into groundlessness, which is the secret gate and destination of prajna. And then the final version, which I wanted to mention, of the Heart Sutra, we got 100,000 lines, got 8,000 lines, we got 43 lines, and then we have 0 lines, but just one syllable. And that syllable is Ang. So if you are so inclined, you could just take a moment and say to yourself, what does that feel like? It's going to feel different to everybody, but whatever you come up with, that is your first breadcrumb leading to prajna. So I hope you have enjoyed this as much as I have enjoyed talking about it. And now for the super fun, at least for me, podcast after party, where we talk about a piece of music. Now, this is a big one, y'all, for me, for my life. So just telling you right now. So if you were to ask me, does a perfect musical recording exist? I would say without hesitating, oh, yes, it does. Yes, it does. This is a recording, a record album that was introduced to me in a very sweet and profound way, which I'll mention in a moment, long ago, probably 35 years ago or something, by someone I was falling in love with, who said to me, after I see you, I go home and I put on this song and I think of you. And the moment he said this, I fell in love with him. And that song is called My One and Only Love. And it's on a recording by 2 masters. And I do not say that lightly. The master named John Coltrane and the master named Johnny Hartman. Now, many of you have heard of John Coltrane, but few of you, I would guess, have heard of Johnny Hartman, and that is a pity. In his life, short life, profound life, brilliant life, John Coltrane made only one recording with a vocalist, and that vocalist was Johnny Hartman. And the recording they made together, conveniently called John Coltrane and Johnny Hartman, has 6 songs. That's all. Each one is perfect, in my view. I don't love Autumn Leaves, but I love all the others. And I like Autumn Leaves, but the others are in a class beyond classification. The lore of this recording is that it was made on 2 tracks in someone's recording studio in his house. A famous jazz engineer, or maybe other kinds of music too, named Rudy Van Gelder. And the 2-trackness means what you're hearing is what they played. There's no overdubs. Although parenthetically and nerdily, there are people who say, actually, there were a few overdubs later. John Coltrane overdubbed some sax fills on the song I'm about to play for you, My One and Only Love. But so be it. Okay, no problem. At least 95% of what you hear on this recording is as it was played. And in our world, that doesn't happen anymore. Songs are creations prized of instruments and vocals and sound effects, but they don't really happen as they're being played. They happen as they're being mixed or remixed, and sometimes in extraordinarily wonderful and charming and beautiful and profoundly creative ways in the studio. But here in this recording, as others of that era, you can feel the human beings. You can hear their fingers on the strings or the keys. And that itself is extraordinary. So it has very personal meaning to me. But so what? The beauty is beyond whatever it could possibly mean to me, which is quite a bit. It is simple. It is spacious. It's rich and warm. These are my words. You listen to it and see what you think. But it combines probably my two favorite qualities in the world of aesthetics in general, in music, in art, in writing, in design, in clothing. And these two qualities are undone. There's something undone, something natural, something real. Second quality, equally important, refined. It is undone and refined in the same moment. And if I spent the rest of my life trying to think of a piece of music that more perfectly encapsulated undone and refined, inseparable, I would not be able to. I would come back over and over to this record album and this song, My One and Only Love. So the first half is the whole song is played through instrumentally. And then the second half of the track, the whole song is played through again with the vocal. And it ends with the sweet sort of fade of McCoy Tyner's very perfect, very spare, very definite piano chords. So I hope that you will enjoy listening to this amazing song. And before we go there, podcaster, words. If you like this podcast, please share it with someone who you think might like it. You could leave us a review. It helps. I don't really do marketing particularly. So word of mouth is what will help this podcast breathe. And if you have a question that you want to ask me, a reflection that you want to share, in show notes, there are two ways to do so. You can message me on Instagram or you can ask me via a Google form. And I would be delighted to hear from you because I don't know what you're thinking and it would help me to know. So thank you. And until next time.
The very thought of you makes my heart sing like an April breeze breeze on the wings of spring, and you appear in all your splendor, my one and only love. The shadows fall and spread their mystic charms in the hush of night, while you're in my arms. I feel your lips so warm and tender, my one and only love. The touch of your hand is like heaven, a heaven that I've never known. The blush on your cheek whenever I speak tells me that you are my own. You fill my eager heart with such desire. Every kiss you give sets my soul on fire. I give myself in sweet surrender, my one and only